A very good morning to all our viewers who've tuned in bright and early this Tuesday morning. You're watching Newspresso live on this broadcast on Moneycontrol with me, Stacy Pereira. And as the drill goes, in the next few minutes, we're going to be giving you a lowdown of all the top stories from across the globe, insights into India, be it political, as well as where the markets are headed in the month of October, as well as the latest trends that are doing the round on social media and otherwise, keeping you informed and ahead of the others. So let's get straight to it and bring you all that we're getting from our global dispatch. Well, now if you look at Wall Street, where it kicked off October's trades on a muted note, one would say the 30-stock Dow closed about 0.2% lower, whereas the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq both managed to see just marginal gains. In fact, the Nasdaq extending its winning streak for the fourth session. Wall Street is now also contending the rising bond yields, the 10-year Treasury yield topping that 4.7% briefly yesterday, the highest level it has seen since October of 2007. Now, investors are also hoping to turn the page on the disappointing September for stocks, where we saw the S&P 500 alone losing close to nearly 5% in September. Futures tied to these indices now, though, are trading in a mixed range currently. Let's look at Europe then, where there too the markets are closed on a lower side on Monday, where investors are digesting those disappointing manufacturing sector data that came in. The stock 600 index closed about 1% lower after a cautiously positive start to the session. Now, it was utility stocks that shed about 2.8%, whereas chemical stocks, those ones dropped 1.8%. If you look at that macro data, the PMI data showed that the downturn for manufacturing output continues in the Eurozone, with new orders falling by a near record level. Now, in the other macro cues, house prices in UK held steady on the prior month of September, but they were down by about 5.3% on a year-on-year basis. So markets reacting to those numbers. Now, if you look at Asia, Asian markets too are trading mixed this Tuesday morning. We could say even after manufacturing data out of China has bounced back to expansion territory. China's factory activity in September expanded for the first time since April. In fact, China's markets, though, are closed for the long weekend of a Golden Week holiday. But it seems like stocks on Hong Kong's Hang Seng are the ones really taking it on the chin. That index is trading by about 3% lower after coming back from that national holiday yesterday. Investors are awaiting the rate decision by the Reserve Bank of Australia. The S&P ASX 200 in Australia is trading down by about 1.1% ahead of that RBA meeting, whereas the central bank is expected to hold rates at about 4.10%. If you look at Japan's Nikkei 225, that one is down by 0.5%, whereas the GIFT Nifty 2 is implying a gap down start for the Indian markets. Let's also look at crude oil prices and how commodities are faring, where oil prices have fallen by about 2% to a 3-week low as a higher price Brent crude contract expired. These are the November contracts that really expired. Now, traders seem to be booking profits even as the US dollar has strengthened further. Crude oil price trajectory will now be dictated by the OPEC meeting, which is due on October 4th, while supply increases by Russia and Saudi Arabia can come as relief. Sources have said to news agencies like Reuters that OPEC Plus is unlikely to tweak its current oil output policy. Now, if you look at Brent futures for December delivery, those ones settled by about $1.49 or 1.6% lower at $90.71 per barrel, or down by about 5% from where the November contracts expired on Friday. In fact, a Moneycontrol poll of 12 energy experts and brokerages, rating agencies as well, revealed that crude oil prices are expected to remain elevated in 2023 but won't cross the $100 per barrel mark. Now, moving on to news from other asset classes like that of cryptocurrencies, where we saw the Bitcoin rising close to 3% in trade. Now, crypto prices have rallied, pushing that Bitcoin to its highest level more than 6 weeks. Bitcoin rose more than 4.5% to settle in at 28,329 dollar levels. Well, this is the highest level it has seen since August of 17th, when it traded as high as $29,108. Ether too rose more than 3% to cross above that $1,700 levels briefly before reversing those gains. In fact, this all happened because there were several Ether future exchange traded funds, or ETFs, that were launched overnight, which could be looked at as a possible positive sign for the whole crypto industry. So that those digital assets there that we saw quite a good rally in those. Now moving on then to more political developments overseas, where in the trial of former President Donald Trump's $250 million civil fraud case, this has begun in New York as of yesterday, and Trump was in fact present in court in the Manhattan Supreme Court. Now, an accountant who worked on the tax returns for Donald Trump testified as the first witness in the case, and the accountant, identified as Donald Bender, testified that he spent over 50% of his work time in Trump-related work from 2011 till his retirement. And he has also agreed to have worked on his corporate entities that were controlled by Trump and his children. Prior to Bender taking the stance, Trump's attorney clashed with the judge, saying that he owed it to the defendant to listen to the evidences. Now, the trial comes a year after Attorney General Letitia James sued Trump, his company, and 3 of his adult children, as well as top Trump organization officials, for misstating the value of many real estate properties. And that is what we are seeing unfold in that Manhattan Supreme Court. Just the first witness just appearing yesterday. We're going to see how that really transpires. This really would mean it could also debar Trump from contesting the 2024 polls. Well, let's also then tell you one company that really caught everyone's attention over the weekend, and that was of Sphere Entertainment. Now, shares of this media and entertainment company climbed as much as 11.1% yesterday after its debut concert, which was performed by world-renowned band U2 at the Venetian Resort in Las Vegas. Now, this is built by Madison Square Garden Entertainment, and Sphere is said to be the newest iteration of immersive and futuristic concert experiences, complete with a next generation wraparound screen. Now, visuals as well as images that emerged from the concert showed that fans had a fully immersive experience with a top of the line technology at their display. The venue accommodates about 17,000 seats and features 168,000 square feet of high definition LEDs, as well as 167,000 speakers that are surrounded. Many fans, in fact, took to X.com saying that watching the concert in the Sphere would now be added to their bucket list. Let's also get you a quick speed recap of what really transpired in trade, and also the setup of what looks ahead through the Lal Street. Now, we did see whether this October month is really going to be kicked off for the bank, but remains to be seen. But if you've looked back, well, we did see markets recoup some of those September losses in the last trading session that was on 29th of September. The Nifty 50 gaining about 115 odd points to end in those 19,600 levels, whereas the Sensex ending at 65,828 odd points. On the technical charts, we are looking at 19,500 levels on the downside, whereas 19,800 levels on the upside are the two key levels that one could track for the Nifty. As for the broader markets, both the mid cap and small cap rose on Friday's session, close to about 1% each. But among the stocks that you need to be looking out for, well, keep your radar on Vedanta, as there is news of its demerger, and we'll tell you more about that in just a bit. But also keep an eye out for auto stocks, which investors are going to be reacting to their sales data numbers for the month of September. Hero Moto in particular, as it has revised its prices effective 3rd of October, that's today. Kalpataru projects as well as RVNL are the ones that could see some action on the back of new order wins. Whereas if you look at the primary markets, there's a lot of action expected here too for this whole week. 14 IPO issues are going to be closing for subscription this week, whereas we're going to see 7 stocks that will debut on the bourses. In the main board segment, we're going to see JSW Infrastructure as well as Web of Jewelers, which will be making their D-Streets debuts today itself. and to that big corporate action that we've been following. On Friday, we saw that Anil Agarwal-led Vedanta Limited announced the creation of independent verticals through a demerger of its underlying companies, and this in order to unlock its potential value. Now, what are we likely to see? The company plans 6 separate listed entities, namely Vedanta Aluminium, Vedanta Oil and Gas, Vedanta Power, Vedanta Steel and Ferrous Materials, Vedanta Base Metals, and of course Vedanta Limited, which is also under its umbrella, will have the semiconductor business as well as the display glass business. So a lot of how they've really broken up that company to make them into 6 separate entities. Now, what we're going to see, the company has also added that this demerger is planned as a vertical split, which means that for every 1 share of Vedanta Limited, the shareholders will additionally receive 1 share of each of the 5 newly listed companies. In a conference call following the announcement of the demerger, the company's management spoke about the reasons for the demerger, the dividend policy, as well as the debt allocation for the demerged entities. Vedanta will now require lenders' approval to go forward with the proposed demerger, as 99.99% of the promoter shareholdings in the company is actually pledged with lenders. So we will remain to see how this all transpires. That will be one stock that you need to be keeping out on your radar today itself, because we're going to see a lot of action that we're likely to see in Vedanta Limited. Well, let's move on then and also speak about the other macro indicators which we are tracking, and likely to see a lot of action in auto counters in focus today, because we are seeing a reaction to that September data that has been trickling in, the sales data that is. Let's look at each of these segments, the passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles, as well as two-wheelers that we normally track and how they've fared. Well, if you look at car sales in India, those reached record high levels for the month of September, driven by that strong consumer demand during the festive season and coupled with the rollouts of new SUVs, of sport utility vehicles. Now, the monthly number for car dispatches for September came in at 3,63,733 units, which is the highest ever monthly sales in the history of domestic passenger vehicle market. For Maruti and Tata, in fact, sales were up by about close to 2%, whereas M&M saw 17% growth in its sales. Tata's CVs, on the other side, registered a 12% month-on-month growth, but its EVs, that is, which it is the biggest player right now in, Tata's EV sales on a month-on-month basis was down by about 6%, but the company says overall, on a year-on-year basis, it is up more than 50%. As for two-wheelers, whereas Eicher Motors, Royal Enfield sales are down by about 4%. Hero Motors September sales came in by 3.2% higher on a year-on-year basis, whereas TVS Motors September sales were up by 6%. Now, Bengaluru is infamous for its traffic, and just last week, social media was flooded with memes of how people spend more than 2 hours to just get through just about 2 kilometers stretch. Now, amidst all of this buzz, there was rounds that carpooling is perhaps banned in Bengaluru. So, would this mean that you would be fined if you choose to carpool in Bengaluru? Well, allow us to set the record straight, because this is not true. Yesterday, the Karnataka government clarified that it will not be banning carpooling services in the city. Karnataka Transport Minister Ramalinga Reddy has told Moneycontrol that the government hasn't banned carpooling in Bengaluru. No official order or notification was issued for the same either. He also added that he will be meeting with cab aggregators today to take stock of the situation, after which we can expect a clear answer on whether carpooling will be banned or not. Reddy also clarified that the government believes carpooling is an effective way to in fact reduce the congestion on the roads, but it is not allowed via an unregistered app which indeed makes profits. He said that such apps and services must apply for licenses and then operate with a yellow board vehicle, which means it is a tourist or a commercial vehicle. So just to set the record straight, no ban for carpooling, because that is pretty much what Bengaluru really needs in order to decongest its roads. Well, moving on then to news that's making national headlines. Now, Bihar has become the first state to release data from a caste-based survey. Now, the report indicates about 36% of the population are from extremely backward classes, whereas 27.1% from backward classes, 19.7% from the scheduled castes, and 1.7% from the scheduled tribe. Now, the general population, which includes the so-called upper classes as well as the which dominate Bihar's politics. Now, this, according to the Mandal Commission report, accounts for about 15.5%. Remember, the state's total population is over 13.1 crore people. Now, the survey also showed that the Yadav community is the largest subgroup, accounting for about 14.27% of all the OBC categories. Now, there is, of course, a war of words that has broken out since then, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi accusing the opposition for trying to divide the country in the name of caste, even without naming any party or the survey in specific. He lashed out at the opposition and attacked them for playing with poor people's feelings. Meanwhile, we also had Rahul Gandhi, who had been quite vocal about the need for a caste census, demanding the central government to conduct a national caste census at the earliest. Now, the timing of such a survey is sure to add pressure on the centre, as calls to increase quotas for OBCs, which is capped right now at about 27%, are likely to grow louder ahead of that 2024 Lok Sabha elections. So, Bihar already taking that steps, and now we're going to hear from the opposition for that clamour growing louder for a nationwide caste-based census. Of course, the BJP and the ruling party not in favour of such a decision. Well, let's move on and tell you what's really doing the rounds on social media and the trends that you could be following up on. Let's tell you on the awards and accolades. Well, the Nobel Prize for Medicines was awarded to Katalin, Karikó as well as Weissman, and this happened yesterday. Now, they both won the Nobel for their discoveries that enable the development of effective mRNA vaccines against COVID-19. The Nobel Assembly said, and I quote, "Through the fundamental discoveries of the mRNA, this year's Nobel laureates critically contributed to this transformative development during one of the biggest health crises of our times," end quote. Now, the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine is given for the significant discovery in either biology or medicine altogether. It is awarded for discoveries that have profoundly benefited humanity and altered the course of science. And moving on to more awards and accolades, where author and philanthropist Sudha Murthy has added another feather to her cap. She was conferred the Global Indian Award by the Canada-India Foundation. Now, the Global Indian Award is worth about $50,000, and the award is presented every year to an Indian who has made a major mark in their chosen field. Now, Sudha Murthy went on to thank the Canada-India Foundation for the award. She also went on to add how her husband, Narayan Murthy, too was awarded this honor back in 2014, making them the first couple to get this award. She is also the first woman ever to receive this award, the Global Indian Award, going to Sudha Murthy this time around. Well, and artificial intelligence, now that is something that is on everyone's mind and everyone's talking about, and the emergence of AI tech has made our lives, many our lives you could say, much easier. But today we bring you something really cool that AI has created. That's right, an artist used the tool to reimagine popular Indian cricketers if they were back in the 1950s. Now, the collection of these AI images has taken the internet by storm and has been widely circulated. You take a look and tell us in the comment section if you were able to identify any of these cricketers and who they really look like. If you could identify them, let us know in our comment section. Well, also let's tell you what you need to looking out for today. Well, among the economic data that we're tracking, you could be looking out for S&P Global's manufacturing PMI print for the month of September, which will be out by about 10:30 a.m. So look out for that. Also, you can, if you're somebody who tracks macros, then you will also get to see the World Bank officials who will be addressing a press conference on the India development update. So if they really want a change of how they're looking at India progress when it comes to GDP and otherwise, that would be a good indicator. That is happening at 11 a.m. And from the courtrooms, we are going to see the Supreme Court here, Chandrababu Naidu's plea seeking the quashing of his FIR that was registered against him in that skill development scam case. Remember, he is a former chief minister and now knocking the doors of Supreme Court to seek that quashing of FIR. He has been lodged in jail, in fact, since September 9th. Now, with that, it's a wrap, and we hope this dose of Newspresso was useful, informative, and gives you that kickstart to your day. But don't forget to come back here tomorrow, same place, same time, for your fresh shot of Newspresso. From all of us who put this show together, thanks so much for tuning in.